Hi, engineering students. So as promised, this is the second half of our slower pace for this week. So I hope that you're easily able to complete those 10 or 15 questions in the Google quiz assignment. Today, we're going to, again, not assign any reading or anything like that. We're just going to be talking with two interviews with our two clients. So the first one is Gil Addison. He works for PathPoint, and he'll tell you more about that. The second one is with Krista Jones, who works at our own Providence Elementary campus over at San Roque. So they each have a very particular kind of object that they'd like built, some furniture. And they'll tell you exactly about that. I'll be asking them all sorts of questions. Please do take notes. I think even as you're listening, try sketching on paper some of the ideas that come to mind or some of what is being described. I think the suggestions and ideas you already had on the discussion boards, those were more open-ended. This is now much more specific. So they actually have a particular design, particular dimensions in mind, but the things that you already brainstormed on, if you can incorporate those somehow, you should absolutely think about how it could be included. So you could put that into your little concept model, into your sketches by all means, okay? And none of this has to be perfect. This is just you trying to think of like, how could we do this in the best ways? Try to see things that go wrong, try to spot problems, just stay creative. I'm hoping by now you've already submitted your request. If you want the materials, I will have that ready to be picked up, and I'll send out the announcement when you can do that. And when you make this concept model, please don't agonize over it. I really want it to be like 1 hour of work at the most, okay? Just putting something together that shows the basic ideas without too much complexity or precision. That's just not the intent right now. And you can pick either of the two projects. I'm hoping we just naturally get a bit of a spread between both of them, hoping you don't all go one or the other. We'll see where it lands. And I've also submitted to both our clients my initial ideas as well. And we'll share yours very shortly. So I'm excited for this. I love that you guys are kind of taking part in that same spirit that I shared with you. Same as the Wright brothers, same as, what was his name? Damadian, the guy who invented the MRI, and then George Washington Carver, and also Sir Christopher Wren that Pastor Fernando Morales shared with us last week. Those were all great connections, and you're carrying on in that same vein. So be excited, be energized. You're doing something really fantastic. All right, without further ado, we'll start with Mr. Gil Addison. Okay, Providence students, we are here meeting with one of our two clients today, and his name is Gil Addison, and he works at a company which is just down the road from our Cannon Perdido campus. He's on Cannon Perdido Street. Their company is called PathPoint. So Gil, maybe you could start by telling us all a little bit about who you are and how you came to be at PathPoint and what PathPoint actually does.
Okay, well, I'm Gil Addison. I've been working for PathPoint for about 23 years now. I started off in a program called Community Access Project. And basically that's really medically fragile individuals in wheelchairs. A lot of them have minimum range of motion. Most of them don't walk, some ambulatory, but very few. So I started off there back in 1998 and been in the program ever since.
Wow.
I've moved up the chain in position, so I am now the Community Integrations Manager. So everything I've learned in the Community Access Project, I taken all those assistive technology skills and working throughout the whole organization now in all 5 counties. I got about 10-day programs, and we're also starting to integrate residential programs and integrated work programs and employment now with assistive technologies. PathPoint supports individuals with disabilities, a large variety of disabilities, helping them get employment, helping them become, integrated community members, so really, I think one of my goals is to really kind of just shed off this disability. If you have a disability, you're kind of, you know, you're kind of limited, but I don't really see it that way. With the right tools and the right equipment and things, you can fully do all the things you want to do. So yeah, so that's what kind of on a brief scale, that's what PathPoint does.
That's great. And can you say a little more? You used the phrase twice just then, assistive technologies. Can you tell us exactly what that means and maybe give an example of something that PathPoint has made use of?
Yeah, assistive technology, especially for people with severe disabilities, quadriplegia, maybe really minimum range of motion. They can't really move their lower upper limbs, but they can move their cheek. You could, just by the movement of a cheek, you could have a proximity sensor, something coming close to your cheek where it could actually activate a software on a computer to move the mouse around and open things and close things, to type. We use proximity sensors, we use basic momentary switches, we just look at a variety of technologies and figure out how they can actually support our individuals with those limited range of motions or limited mobility. But I mean, the simple click of a switch can open up a person's world. This has happened over and over again in our programs, where once they get a glimpse of what they can do in the outside world and reach out through a computer, it's like, I just want to go that direction. And so
opens everything up for them.
Yeah, it's a profound change in a person's life.
Yeah. And I know, Gil, that maybe as many as half of our students who are watching this right now, they did tour your facility there on Campanito Street about 2 years ago, I think that was. And they met some of the wonderful people there. We watched a lot of the art work that was happening. Like, a lot of people were doing painting and drawing things, and the students might remember the 2D plotter that one of the universities had created, where it moved the pencil or the paintbrush around, magnifying the little motions on the joystick. Do I have that correct?
It's a 3-axis plotter, I guess, X, Y, Z, and then there's also a click switch. You could click it with a hand or a cheek to lift the pen off the canvas and move it to another location on the canvas. That was from the UCSB Mechanical Engineering Department.
Got it. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, that was really inspiring to see. So to get into the project that we're concerning ourselves with, so you and I have already been talking a little bit. We have this idea for a very strongly customized, very strongly adapted piece of furniture that would enable a person in a wheelchair to be able to use a computer in a much more, accessible kind of way. So do you want to tell us a little bit about, what limits the person in the wheelchair? Like, why is it so difficult for them to use a computer in the first place?
Yeah, well, I mean, let me think about that a little bit. There's so many different challenges there. I think one of them is the height and width of a wheelchair. Most desks don't really accommodate a wheelchair unless it's ADA approved, right? So you get a wheelchair to fit right under a desk to sit comfortably, and for a person to visually see the screen, excuse me, the way they need to see the screen is sometimes a challenge. So that's one of the aspects. Sometimes a person in a wheelchair likes to recline their wheelchair. And so if you're reclining back, you can't really see the screen of the computer. There's also the aspect of a keyboard height, of how do they have access to typing on the keyboard, or how do I explain it? Like, can the keyboard tilt up and they can just kind of do that, right? Those are some of the challenges, I think, and then, yeah, just maybe angling the desk so that it's
Mhm.
accessible. For
Yeah.
somebody in a small wheelchair lying, maybe more lying flat.
Okay.
On,
Okay.
it's hard to
Okay.
it's hard to visualize right
Yeah.
offhand, but
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So it's very common for a wheelchair to have that tilting ability. Is that a fairly common thing that's
yeah,
built in? Mhm.
yeah.
Okay.
There's different types of wheelchairs. You have your basic, push wheelchair, but then you have for individuals that spend a lifetime in a wheelchair, it
Mhm.
needs to tilt back to, I mean, there's for health reasons, right? So no
Right.
pressure
Okay.
on the bottom, things like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So we were envisioning like some kind of piece of furniture which would, firstly, it has to be safe. It can't possibly, tip over or be any kind of hazard. I think would I be correct in saying that we even have to consider a piece of furniture might get bumped, like a person's in a wheelchair, maybe they kind of overshoot or they, don't come in quite right. So there's got to be a high level of safety. Am I right there?
Yeah, high level safety. I mean, it's got to be durable. With
Yep.
wheelchairs, especially an electric wheelchair,
Mhm.
sometimes it's hard to gauge because the person moving the wheelchair doesn't really see below them because they can't see. And so
Yeah.
things get knocked on the bottom all the time. You can kind of
Mhm.
come into our day program and look at the corners of the walls, and you can kind of see like, oh, they get bumped here.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
and I suppose that's accentuated by if a person is quadriplegic or paraplegic, they don't have sensation in their legs, in their
yeah,
feet, so they don't have that feedback that you and I might have.
yeah.
Yeah.
Those are
Um,
other different dynamics there. So
yeah. Yeah. Um, okay, and then so we're talking about that something that's safe, and then something that can have like a desk where the computer is mounted to it and kind of fixed to it in a very solid way, and can kind of extend forwards, but also tip forwards, like towards the person with like a range of motion. So is that correct there? And anything to describe along those lines?
yeah, definitely. I think if you kind of think of like a drafting table, you know how a drafting table can either lie flat or kind of come up
Mm.
at a certain degree,
Yeah.
kind of something like that would be beneficial. Then you'd also have the computer that can also kind of tilt in a certain way
Mhm.
too, because the screen tilts.
Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking iMac as an
Yeah.
example. So
Yeah. 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 And to make this really customized, you were telling me that iMacs are the probably likely type of computer that we would be pretty safe in designing for.
yeah, I would say IMAX. That's what we use in our program. IMAX are more universal in
Yeah.
terms of accessibility and accessibility features
Yeah.
on the iMac software itself.
Yeah.
So that's what we use.
Yeah. Okay. And the the person who'd be using this, there would need to be like a little desk area, like we said, which now would this include a keyboard and a mouse, or is there like an alternative mouse arrangement that like sits in a person's lap, or how does that look?
Yeah, it could include a keyboard and a mouse. There's different types of mouses that we would use. So you'd have your physical move around mouse in your hand, but then you'd
Mhm.
also have maybe a touchpad, right?
Mhm.
Like one of the track pads that you can get for the iMacs now. We
Okay.
also have another mouse that's kind of a roller ball. It rolls, and then it has buttons that you can double click on those buttons.
Okay.
So it can accommodate. The challenge would be to make sure that the mouse doesn't slide off. So
Right, right. Yeah, and I wonder if with that tilting so it doesn't slip, I wonder if there should be some sort of like a Velcro thing underneath maybe, so it like stays on the desk. I don't know, just
yeah, that's something your students can innovate. You know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. All right, so we need it to be safe, secure. It's got to fit the geometry of a wheelchair, and I know that you and I are going to work on what that exact, inches, right down to the last inch, what that range of specification should be.
Mhm.
It needs to be able to kind of extend out towards the person so that it can kind of like come, you know, over their knees, like over into their lap. We talked about the adjustable viewing angle, you know, to account for a person possibly reclining or sitting up, or where their particular height might be. So I guess the key here is the flexibility, like the range of angles and extensions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
And
also,
yeah.
I would say then also like the lifting of the desk too. So
Okay.
low to high, because you would want it to be actually kind of universal too. So not only for people in wheelchairs, but ambulatory individuals that can actually stand.
Okay. Okay. So maybe in like the fully retracted position, maybe that's like the highest, kind of like a standing person's typical height, and then maybe it comes out and tilts toward. Do you think it's possible that that could be simply like the one track of motion? Like it's, if I use my hands, like, you know, if the computer is here and level, there's like a little desk with the keyboard, and there's the computer screen, and then maybe there's like one smooth motion where it kind of tips down and can tip back again, and then obviously in any tipping position, then the screen is also adjustable.
Yeah.
But it, you know, maybe that's a good kind of solution.
Yeah, that could be a good solution. I think just having the screen itself on the computer is an added bonus, because you don't really have to do the tilt of the desk itself
Yeah.
to an extreme. So
Yeah.
that would help with stability. But then you have the screen that can actually tilt also. So
Right. And the iMac screen has a built-in hinge. I think it's got probably a good, you know, 15 to 20 degrees of motion from the ones I've seen. Yeah.
like the one behind me.
Yeah, exactly. And we have those in our studio at school as well. Now we would want this to be mechanically operated. That would be ideal, right? That we like press a little button on the side, or maybe eventually integrate into an app or something like that. But the mechanized electronic feature would be really important, right?
Yeah, definitely. I can kind of envision like buttons on a little panel where they can just reach and press it, and it would have, I've seen some desks that have like 1 to 4, and you could preset each one of those numbers to a certain height and angle.
Yeah, that's great. And regarding other like electronifications, for want of a better word, I would imagine it would be handy to have like a power strip that was built in and nearby, you know, so you can plug it all right in. Anything else in terms of like basic electronics, like, you know, would there be any value in, I don't know, any other built-in lighting or mechanized shelving or anything, or like storage underneath? Like what other features might be secondary?
Maybe I would say maybe the panel of buttons lights up, so it's visible for somebody who may be, you know, maybe not visually impaired, but needs guidance to which one. Color coding maybe for buttons, so maybe an individual knows that that blue button is the button for him, and it moves it to his height. Cord management is always a plus. So being able to have all your cords underneath the computer all managed properly, so that if you pull up in your wheelchair, you're not going to pull back and take the cord with you. That's essential. I'd have to think a little more about that, about that type of lighting, but definitely.
Just trying to think of ideas while we're talking. It's good to brainstorm. I like all those ideas about color coding, making it as simple as possible. Well, excellent. Gil, I think that gives us a pretty good idea already. So what our students are going to do in the next couple of weeks is actually create some little kind of like miniature mock-ups using various materials, like whether it be cardstock or Lego parts or something, but trying to get some of those conceptual models produced in miniature. And then, you know, from there, we will start to purchase the bits and pieces that we need and put it together and get those critical dimensions from you, like we said. but I think we'd love to put those miniature mock-ups in front of you and have you point out things that would or wouldn't work, and that will help shape the design as it goes forward. So
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, excellent.
Good
All
luck,
right,
kids.
well, yeah, exactly. Thank you for your time so much, Gil. We love working with you guys. I think the work you're doing over there is inspiring. It was extremely touching to me personally last
Thank
time
you.
to see your passion and your enthusiasm, your love for the residents there.
Yeah, thank you, Rodney. I really appreciate you, your Providence High School, and all your future next generation engineers coming out. I think it's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, excellent. All right, thanks a lot,
Thank you,
Gil.
guys. Bye.
All right, Providence engineering students, this is our client from Providence School itself. Her name is Mrs. Jones, and one of you has a very special relationship with her. She's got a great idea for some furniture, some active mechanical electrical furniture that we can do. And so we're going to talk about that today with her. So firstly, Mrs. Jones, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been at the school, which grade you teach? Yeah, just a little bit.
Okay. I teach 4th grade. I'm in my 12th year at Providence, and I have taught 4th grade for most of those years. So some of the engineering students I actually had in 4th grade. And it's great to see them in high school and what they're doing now. Let's see, a little bit about me. I enjoy hiking and going to national parks and enjoying God's beauty.
Awesome. And I will occasionally run into Mrs. Jones walking around our neighborhood. So I actually can't remember exactly where you live, but I'm sure it can't be too far away because we've seen each other a few times now. Excellent. And so you had an idea for a piece of furniture that would help you both with the, zooming that you have been doing, and also going forward, knowing that there's likely going to be kind of a mix of that. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your idea?
Yes. The idea is kind of a standing desk that actually can be turned and moved. I have a disc in my back that the cushion between the discs are compressed. And so when I sit for a long time, the bone can rub against bone and I end up having back spasms. And so in the spring, when I was sitting way too much and ended up, my back was hurting quite a bit. So when we were coming back this fall, I was trying to figure out how I can teach standing. And I've modified a desk by stacking, it's about 5 or 6 different textbooks high for my computer to sit on, but it's not mobile. I can't turn the computer to show different things in the room, and it's very bulky. Also, I find that it's not a good height for me to teach because I'm always constantly leaning forward, which is also not good for my back, to see things as students are sharing something in the classroom. So we want something that comes up, but also can be moved forward to show the whiteboard clearer and easy for the students to be able to see.
Okay, excellent. Are you able to like pick up your computer right now and show us the arrangement you're using? Is that possible?
I can actually. I can turn my computer. Let's see. I'll have to move my camera down. So here's the tabletop, and here are the books, and I just set the computer on that. So right now I'm sitting, but I constantly, usually I have the book, the computer on top of the books, and I'm standing.
Okay. All right. So, and would you say that you're standing most of the time when you're teaching? That's your preferred method, just because of that lower back pain. Okay. So what would you estimate would be the ideal height that you'd be using most of the time? Like what sort of scale, what kind of height are we talking here?
Probably a little bit higher than what this is currently. I'm about 5'6", but many days I wear a small heel with my dress clothes. And so even now, I'm not sure, when I stand, the computer would reach about right here.
Okay.
I think right now it needs to go up a few more inches than that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because you want the camera to be more or less at eye level, I think
Yeah.
most people would say is the ideal. So if you're about 5'6", you'd probably almost need a platform that's almost 5 feet high,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But now I imagine you want some flexibility in this. So you and I were talking about how there could be an adjustable height to that,
Yeah.
something that was readily adjustable. Do you want to tell us any more about why that would be useful?
Well, that would be, yes, because there are certain times when I do need to sit down in a chair and use my computer at the same time, like when I'm doing flow with the students, which is a reading program, one-on-one, I will sit down and I need then the desk to be lower so that I could write or take my computer off for a few minutes to use it more as a desk. So I need the two different heights so that for everything that I do in teaching, then I have one table that meets every need.
Do you think it would be best if we had one platform that moved through those heights, or would it be better to have perhaps a taller one for that and then a lower one that, like you kind of come around and sit at a different location on the same structure? What do you think?
I was thinking that it'd be better for it to move up and down and that it would have one platform.
Okay.
The other thing I was thinking is because sometimes I use my iPad as a projector or a document camera, that it would be nice to have a little table to the side that lifts up that I could use on the left side since I'm left-handed, and then I could write, and it would be at the same level as the platform so that I could use it either if it was sitting or standing.
Okay. And it wouldn't be very practical, of course, to write on something that was 5 feet high, like almost eye level. That's the ideal zoom-in camera height, but then obviously bringing it down, even standing, you'd have to bring that down to be able to write on it. Okay. Good. So well, I should say I have looked already, and there are actually good like mechanical electrical actuators which exist. They're kind of all already integrated and built to, like, raise and lower things. Like I don't know if you've seen these, but in people's kitchens sometimes there are like hidden shelves that like come down, and your KitchenAid is right there, and then it kind of lifts away back into the cupboard when you're done with it. So I think something like that would be very possible to do. So it was all done with the press of the button. How big do you think this desk would have to be to keep the laptop and everything else that you need? Not including the iPad part. Let's just say like the main platform. Okay.
My computer is, I want to say 18 inches across. It's kind of it's a larger laptop. It's not a smaller one. So it would need to be a little bit bigger than that. So if I have a paper or something, I can sit
something next to it as well.
Next to it.
Yeah. And there's probably not like I mean, aside from basic practicality, there's probably not an upward limit for that. It couldn't be too small or nothing fits. But if it were, say, like 3 feet wide, like there's no reason why not, right?
Right. That and 3 feet would be plenty. You could even make it just a hair smaller.
Yeah. Okay. Now, what about like if it was going to be mechanically adjusted, it would obviously need to be able to plug in so that electrical system could operate, and then we could use that electrical system to also run other things. So what other like electrical enhancements, things like an outlet, like a built-in outlet, lighting, like built-in LED downlights or something? What do you think might be useful?
Yes, the lighting in my classroom it's pretty dark in here, and I had a very hard time finding a place where I could zoom for the kids to see me clearly. And this spot, when we go back in the classroom, I will not be able to stand here because the student will actually be sitting where I am right now. And the front of the room, the lighting is really bad. And if we have to Zoom while we're at school for students that are at home, I need some kind of lighting that helps capture the picture better so everything is not so dark. So a light behind the computer or an area that would shine enough to bring enough light would be very nice. And a power strip to have my computer and other things that need to be plugged in would be very beneficial. So they're not needing electrical cords or different things.
Right,
outlets.
right. So it travels with you, yeah. Sorry, do you mean that lighting would be to like light up you for the camera?
Yes.
In a dark room, like just shining right back at you?
Yeah, it would be enough. It wouldn't be super bright, but a light glow to at least make my face visible on camera.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let me see here. I want to think of the other aspects. So we also, you and I had talked about how, well, I guess you already mentioned that sometimes the camera needs to come close to the whiteboard, that sometimes you want to be further back doing something else. So I had suggested putting caster wheels on the bottom of it. So instead of like a platform coming out, you would just move the whole cart wherever it needs to go. So what do you think about that? And what are some of the issues that we might have to, anticipate with something on wheels?
With something on wheels, we need to just make sure that it's a lockable wheel, not a wheel that's going to just keep moving all the time, as we talked about. The other thing would be is with the table, we'll just look at the space with the width, because if we made it too wide, we wouldn't be able to turn it to show number corner or things that may need to be shown in the space that there is. So that's why I said, 2.5 feet would be probably plenty, because then you get it too large, I won't be able to turn it.
Yeah, it just becomes unmaneuverable, impractical at that point. Okay, and what about storage? Like with something that's around the height of anywhere from, let's say, 3 to 5 feet, that's and maybe like let's say 2 by 2 feet. That's quite a lot of volume then underneath. So would it be helpful to have like either open shelves or a closable cabinet, or what would be best?
Closable cabinet would be great, because then I could put all my teacher manuals on a shelf or two, if there were a couple of shelves, and they would be then right there in my grasp, and then I could put them away when I don't need them. And then they wouldn't, if I have to turn it, they wouldn't fall out.
Yeah. Wait, sorry, if you turned what, they wouldn't fall out?
When I turn the cart, if I'm turning the cart, if it was open, the books could slide out.
Sure.
Could.
Yeah.
But if you have the door, it would keep them inside the cabinet.
Yes. There'd probably be a strong temptation with something like this to kind of jump on it and ride it like a shopping cart as well, I would imagine. Maybe like a safety belt or something, or issue it with a helmet. Yeah. Okay. Well, good. I think there's some good possibilities here. And so, Mrs. Jones, what we will be doing next, I think next week, we're going to have the students use like basic items like cardstock, paper, Lego, Vex, and anything really at all, and kind of make like small mock-ups of what this could look like. Like imagine like a little 6-inch high version that is big enough to show some of the concepts and ideas, not like dimensionally accurate, but just give some of those conceptual expressions. And then we will want to come back to you with those and put those concepts in front of you. And I think immediately you'll look at them and you'll see, oh, I can see straight away this wouldn't work, or why don't you put this thing around here? And I think like 90% of the design refinements can be taken care of at that conceptual level, and then we can move it from there. And I'm hoping that somewhere around January, probably. I think January is a realistic delivery time that we could give something like this to you, and we'd be delighted to do that.
Well, that's great. I'm very excited to see what the class comes up, and I look forward to using it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we really appreciate your time today. And yeah, I wish you all the best in your teaching over at Zenroki.
Thank you so much.